Hello, everybody, and welcome to Winecast. What is Winecast, you might ask? Well, it's a podcast about wine, and who better to join me for the first episode of Winecast than I call him the Mayor of Montalto, helps run one of the biggest and most successful wineries on the Mornington Peninsula, Mark Coffer.
Hello.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
It's approaching a pretty crazy time of year. All year is pretty crazy in your realm, which is hospitality, but just getting even more nuts now, isn't it?
Yeah, as soon as the sun comes out, that's it.
People go bananas, hey?
I mean, it's, we've had a few summers where they've been non-existent, so, actually coming into one where we have no kind of lockdowns, no fires.
Touch wood.
Yeah. No, it's going to be good. Time for celebration.
Because how long have you been in Australia now?
Coming up to 10 years now. 10 years in March.
Yeah. Were you always in the hospitality realm when you moved over?
Yeah, I used to run some venues, lots of different places in London, where there was bars, clubs, pubs, so on.
Yeah. Before we get into that, we're just going to fill the audience in. What we're going to do today is we've got a collection of wines here. Me and Mark are going to sit here and drink a wine. And if you want to crack a wine with us, feel free. We're going to talk a bit of shit about wine. I'm going to ask Mark some really obnoxious questions about wine. Mm-hmm. We'll chat about his journey from the UK over to Australia, cultural differences between the two countries, your love of hospitality, and that'll be it. Talk a bit of shit about UK music. Mm-hmm. Lovely. Well, how well do you think you know the Montalto wines, Mark?
I'm 70% confident.
Yeah. Do you have a bit of a taste for it? Like, I'm one that I pretend to know what I'm talking about, but I don't whatsoever. Like, I can't taste notes or anything like that, and that's the same with coffee or beer or whiskey. It all tastes the same to me. Do you taste any?
Because you have too much of it.
That's it. I smash it too much.
Yeah.
Do you taste any notes or?
Yeah, I reckon. Done a fair few courses in wine, and used to run a wine bar in London as well. So it's we have a lovely little thing at work which is called wine dollars. So everyone earns wine dollars to then be able to then
what
their own wines.
Purchase their own wine, and that's like Montalto wines or
wines, gin, so on like that. So I call it educational.
How does one earn wine dollars?
Got to work there.
So I can't earn some wine dollars by doing some deeds?
Oh, depends what deeds.
Yeah. Oh, mate, I'm desperate for wine dollars at this time of year. So if you could just close your eyes for me, and I'm going to pour us a glass of the first one. So this is a bit of a... pretend you're blindfolded.
Yep.
And we're going to see how well you know the Montalto wines. We're going to have a sip of this one, and you can tell me what you're tasting and have a guess of what Montalto wine we're knocking back. Now we've got a brand new Persian rug on the set of the podcast, so we've got to be really, really careful not to make a mess on that, or Lockie might have an aneurysm. So you can open your eyes now. So now it's a bit of a spoiler. It's a darker wine, obviously, but you don't know which one.
Yeah.
So because people swirl their wine around. Like, what's all that about? Is there something to that, or is that people being wanky, or?
It looks wanky.
Yeah,
it definitely does. But it's to aerate it, you get more of the smells, the perfumes coming out of the wine from doing that. Aerate
it. So again, it's just me asking you obnoxious questions. What does that mean?
The air goes through the wine, and it helps lift everything up.
Cool.
I did a course it was a specific glass company, and I thought it was super wanky because there's like different shaped glasses for different wines. And I actually thought it's just a gimmick. But we went to it, and they had 6 different glasses, and one of them was like a little plastic sippy cup. And they actually showed you, and the science behind it, and it's different smells and so on have different densities in the air, and so it will be better and it will smell better in certain glasses because of the shape of it.
That's crazy, because I've always thought that, like, if you're at an event like a festival or a race day, and they're serving drinks in a plastic cup compared to like when you get a drink like in a pub, like in a nice glass, like it just tastes that much better. Is there a taste element to it too, or it's just like the smell?
You get the smell, and some of it's like a taste element. So they would put in, say, Cabernet in a Pinot glass, and you get mint out of it. It was really odd. It was crazy. Incidentally enough, Sippy Cup came 3rd overall for best overall.
Yeah.
For putting everything in it.
Okay.
So that was quite interesting.
Bizarre. All right, let's knock this one back.
Yeah. I know what it is already.
Go on.
Monte Pinot.
That is the Montalto Pinot. Do you know what year? Would you be able to tell the difference between the years?
Oh, it really depends. Like, I can tell between the really heavy years and the really light years, like the real sunny ones and the really cold ones.
Do you want to explain to the audience what that exactly means? Because you gave me a good education the other night, and I found this fascinating.
Basically how I train my staff and so on is I say, like, the difference between different years, the main point of it is the climate, in terms of how it changes the flavours, the aromas, the textures, and, you know, how warm it is, how cold it is, and, you know, essentially what that does for everything. And the way that I explain it to people is, you know, you think you got, say, a piece of lamb, and you can either put it in a slow cooker or you can put it on a barbecue. And, you know, it starts off as the exact same piece of meat, but vastly different flavours, vastly different textures by just essentially cooking it different. And it's the same thing with grapes. The warmer it is, the quicker they ripen, the more sugar, the more alcohol. And the colder the climate, the more sort of delicate, more elegant style of a wine that you'll end up with.
So, like, if you're in a country that's close to the equator, like, they're going to be producing really, would you call it bold flavoured wines?
Yeah, bolder style wines, you know. There's different bits of, I think it's 42 on the equator, where, you know, it goes through loads of different parts of France, parts of Italy, part of, you know, Argentina, Chile, California, so on like that. So it's definitely some big bolder styles coming out of those countries. And
so I guess in an Australian perspective, in years where we've had, you know, such as this year and the years preceding where we've had La Nina and it's been a bit cooler, the wines that you've produced, have they been a bit more, would you say, delicate?
Yeah, overall, I mean, 2013 across the peninsula was a crazy warm year, like super, super, super hot. So all the wines are incredibly rich, bold, even in, you know, their structures and how long they, you know, even that flavour, like if you were to drink the 2013 in 2013, it'd be super intense. Yeah. So, you know, if it's rested a few years, it starts softening a bit, the acids and the flavours start developing.
Yeah,
different.
That was going to be my next question. What does aging do for a wine? Like the phrase is, it's aged like a fine wine. Like,
yeah, dusty and locked in your cellar.
Yeah, like, what does that do to the taste, like locking it away?
For different wines, different things. So for, say, like a Chardonnay, like it will soften some of the acids and it will start coming out like a bit more buttery and creamy sort of over the years. Like a Pinot, what happens is this is like really fruity. So what will happen is the fruit will start dropping off and more sort of savoury characteristics will start coming out. Okay. So it really depends, and it depends what you like. Like some people really like a really light style fruity Pinot. So drink a young Pinot. There's no issue with that. Everyone likes different things for a reason. Yeah. You know, if we didn't, we'll all be eating porridge and drinking water.
That's so true. So like, so an aged wine isn't always a better wine. It's just personal preference.
No, a lot of people, you know, why it's more expensive is because you've had to house it as well. You've had to store it for longer. Yeah. You know, I suppose
there'd be less of it. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why it's more expensive, but it doesn't always mean it's better. And it's actually incidentally good at looking at what that year was, because sometimes, you know, you might have a terrible year it was just miserable all round and produced some poor wines, and you might end up paying through the nose just because it's old rather than it's actually good.
Yeah, and I think that's where people get confused, and that's for a lot of things, not just wine, but cheers to you. But anything like, they see the price tag and they automatically think, you know, it's a mint, it's a premium service or product, but yeah, it doesn't always mean that, eh?
No, definitely. And I always say to people, it's all about value for money, and that could be anything from, you know, if it's someone's anniversary, people don't care about paying for top-notch champagne and this and that and so on. You know, they know it's the experience of that. But if you're out with, you know, some of the boys after footy and you just want a happy hour or whatever, and like even if you want like a $5 happy hour wine, you're happy sipping that. Yep. Like, and that's value for money. Like, it doesn't have to always be something that's expensive.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think it's just a big dick swinging contest. Like, you know, how much can they lash out on a wine or a whiskey or a whatever?
Yeah. Like, well, some of it's prestige as well. You know, there's a lot of people who do have money, and part of it is these things are rare.
Like owning a Rolex. Like, yeah.
But it's also something that it's a consumable. So it's gone. So it's not like, they can keep producing these things. Like once it's gone, it's absolutely gone.
It's one of those things like, is there ever a perfect moment to pull out that really expensive bottle of wine?
That's it. I mean, I say to people who just keep hoarding, and then, everyone's going to die eventually.
Yeah.
Like, there's got to be a time where you have to pick it out. And it might be when, probably not when you just come back, absolutely sloshed after a night out. Probably not the greatest time to do it.
That's exactly right. Like in uni, one of my best mates that I lived with had this carton of like just 5 like apparently really nice cigars. Again, I wouldn't fucking know, but like we always said we're going to save them for like one of our last days at uni before we all move away. And like the amount of times we got home, fucked just from a random night out and dipped into the cigar stash, like it's ridiculous and such a waste. But again, like it doesn't matter. Hey.
No.
And hey, what I learned is you can't age a wine once you've cracked it open.
No, that was a bad one.
Nah. So at the Virtus Men's Night a few months back, we there'd been a cracked open bottle of what we're drinking. This is a fresh one, but it was a cracked open bottle of the Montalto Pinot that had been sitting there for about 6 months.
Yeah, vastly different.
And I'd dipped into it, and I knew something was off. I don't know my wines that well, but I knew something was off, but just kept drinking it anyway because I didn't really know better.
Quite incidentally, the wine was off.
And it was
That's
off.
Exactly what was
wine
it.
can go off.
Yeah.
But yeah, my times at uni, we've had cracked open wines that have been there for months and months. We've dipped into it, so you're not going to get sick. You just it just tastes a bit weird, hey?
Yeah, it goes like vinegary.
Funky, yeah.
You're fine with goon though.
Yeah, yeah, mate. That's that'll survive a holocaust. Not a holocaust, Jesus. That'll survive a nuclear bomb. Jeez.
Yeah.
Oh, moving on.
Yeah.
Moving on, Mark.
Swiftly.
Hey, why did you get started in the hospitality industry as we finish off this Montalto Red?
Used to do it at uni. Like did business admin at uni when I was a bit younger, and started working at the students' union. Then vastly different size venues over
I've
there.
lost it. Keep going.
You
sorry.
lost it.
Yep.
Vastly different size venues there. Like that whole just shy of 3,000 people for a student union, which is pretty full on, pretty nuts, but good fun.
Like, is it something? What were you studying at uni, by the way?
Business admin.
Yeah, so it's something that you grew up wanting to do, or just once you were at uni, you sort of grew up for it?
Grew into it. I mean, if you've known from some of my sessions that I'm half complete and don't mind a chat.
Yeah, we get through some.
Yeah.
75%.
Yeah, Mr. Jeff loves
Jeffrey Deck.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to get him on.
Oh yeah,
Me, you and
definitely.
him. We'll sit back.
Be a 2-hour sesh.
Love that.
Yeah.
So you were studying in the UK. Whereabouts in the UK were you located?
A place called Portsmouth.
Yeah.
So south coast.
Yeah. And what was life like growing up in the UK? Like family life, early life? What did you want to do when you were a youngster?
Oh,
Like a proper youngster?
proper youngster. I think everyone wanted to be like fireman or astronaut.
Yeah. Football player?
Oh yeah, definitely. Football player, musician.
Nice,
Like,
nice.
At the same time. Very difficult job.
Whereabouts did you grow up? Like same place you went to uni?
No. In the UK, it's quite tradition for people to move vastly out from where they live to go to uni. So you don't tend to live with your parents at uni. You go find yourself a bit. Get a bit of growing up going on.
What did that look like? The finding yourself process?
A lot of alcohol.
Stock standard. So the cultures aren't too different in that regard then?
Oh yeah, just a lot cheaper.
Yep.
50 pence shots, $1 shots.
Oh man.
Yeah, so a bit different.
I envy it.
Yeah, a little bit different. No RSA. That's a vastly different thing.
Tell us about that. What do you mean no RSA?
No, if you can
Like
literally...
anyone can pour a drink for anyone?
Well, literally, if you were carried to the bar, passed out with your mates, you'd still get served a Jaeger bomb.
Right.
Yeah. Makes for some interesting times. And I initially was like, when I came out here, I was like, what do you mean? Like, because people getting cut off after 6 beers and so on.
And so like can you refuse people at all?
I mean, you can, but no one does.
Yeah.
I
suppose
people
it's
don't...
business, eh?
I can tell when I serve a bunch of UK people out here because they don't drink water when they're drinking. It's just not done. It's not part of the culture. They say it's almost like a weak thing to do, where, a little bit smarter out here with the sun.
Oh, yeah. You got to be. You don't get the sun much there. How'd you find that? Like, moving from the UK to Australia where the sun does a substantial...
Especially with this thing.
Yeah, especially with the dome. If you're listening on Spotify, Mark's got a bald head.
Yeah.
How'd you find that adjustment to the
weirdly
climate?
enough, not too bad. I do like the warm weather and... I found myself burning my head more in the UK than I did out here. Because here I just know it's going to be hot. I just chuck on sun cream.
And you just prepare for it, yeah.
Yeah, whereas in the UK you just go out and then, slowly turn to a crisp during the day.
Yeah.
That's a little bit different.
Close your eyes for me. We're going to crack open the next one. And it's a spoiler, it's a white, and we're drinking it out of a glass. We've just had red in, so I hope that doesn't affect the taste too much for us.
A bit of a rosé mix.
Don't even know what that means. We'll get into that, though. Yeah, with me battling a bit. There we go. Do you know what ASMR is?
No.
So it's this subgenre of videos on YouTube, and it's just like, it just sounds like this, of people doing stuff like pouring drinks and making sounds with their mouth really close to the mic, and a lot of people, myself included, find it really, really satisfying.
Oh yeah,
and can sometimes fall asleep to it.
And have you got to guess what it's going on?
Nah. Like, you sort of click on the video knowing what it's going to be, and it's just people making these weird but
soothing
sounds, and you just listen to it and it calms you down.
So no whales and dolphins and jungle noises for you?
No, nothing like that. No. Rightio, we're on.
All right.
Cheers to you.
Chin chin.
That's sweet. Wait, that's smashable, as one would say.
Technically not sweet.
Okay, right. There's my obnoxiousness.
No, it's fine. It's honestly fine. It's one of the most confusing things in wine when people ask for a sweet wine. What quite often they mean is fruity.
Fruit. So this is fruity.
Yeah, so sweet is.
But would fruity not be sweet?
Technically, no, because it's the amount of sugar that's actually sugar per litre that's in this wine, and there's a minimal amount of sugar. This is still classed as a dry wine because of the amount of sugar in it. But the notes that you're getting is fruity.
Yeah.
So you do get notes, you just don't know it.
Okay, and that's just a thing of practice, like knowing what is fruity and what is dry and what is...
Yeah, a lot of it you end up... so dry, it's pretty much most wines, unless you're going for like Moscato or, the like the fortified or the sweet wines, like stickies. And you'll see from them straight away from... like how much more like viscous and essentially thick. So if you think of wine like between water and milk, like when you're drinking it, where is it on that kind of scale? And then some of them almost end up past that, almost like a watered down honey stage.
Yeah, okay. Hey, I didn't get your guess for what this was, by the way.
Savvy bee?
Savvy bee. Incorrect, Mark.
Is that actually the Shardy?
It is the Shardy.
Ah, Jesus.
On the Savvy bee though, like, because I know... What does... Sauvignon, am I pronouncing that right? Sauvignon, because you can get Sauvignon Blanc, but then there's a red, like, Sauvignon...
Cabernet Sauvignon.
Cabernet Sauvignon. That's like, what does Sauvignon mean? And
it's the grape name. It's like all the different ones, Chardonnay, Pinot Gris, Pinot Noir.
So how can the same grape produce both a red and a white wine?
So they're technically all different grapes.
Okay.
So you can... Incidentally enough, you can actually make a white wine out of red grapes. So, like, if you have a red grape at home and you press it, the juice like runs clear. And it's incidentally, like when you're making a red wine, you actually need the skins, and then they soak the skins for a long time,
right?
And that develops a lot more of the flavors.
Yeah.
So
and it gives it the red color.
Yeah. So that's how they do rosé, but they leave it in 2 hours to a day, up to a day. That's it.
And rosé is like a sparkling.
No, just you can have a still rosé, sparkling rosé, but rosé you can make out of red or white, but they use red skins to actually colour it and give it a little bit more depth, and that's what it is.
Right, and so whereas with a white wine, they discard the skins like immediately if it was a red grape.
Not always. There's something also called like an orange wine, which they keep the grape skins on, and then turns it a little bit of a tinge of orange, and that makes it that way. And but majority of the time they press the grapes or crush the grapes, and that ends up with a your white wine, and then with reds they press it all and then keep the skins in there. But how they can make different ones, so like for instance in America they're big on a wine called White Zinfandel, So Zinfandel you can have as a red wine, a white wine, a rosé. Like it's huge in California, but they use the red grapes to actually make the white wine, and it makes it like a slightly heavier white wine in terms of its body and so on like that. But yeah, they do lots of crazy stuff now to mess around with it all.
That's really fascinating because I've always just thought red wine they're made with like purple or red grapes. White wines are like made with green grapes and that's it. But there you go. So you can make white with red, and you couldn't make like a red with a green grape though. Doesn't go the other way.
I mean, technically you could if you had red skins. You could technically, but it's called a different wine anyway. But, incidentally, it's got to be a red wine or a white wine to be classified as red or white. So, I mean, you think about all different varieties of apples. They start off as different apples. I mean, they're all different varieties, but it's essentially an apple. But they all have vastly different flavors and sweet and sours, and every different profile.
What's your favorite type of apple?
Or jazz over here.
Yeah, jazz are good. I'm a big Fuji man.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Braeburn in the UK, which doesn't exist out here.
What's that?
It's called Braeburn in the UK, which doesn't exist out here.
Hey, back on the UK, what are some things you do miss about your homeland? I mean, it's been 10 years now, but what are some things that you miss that we don't quite get here in Australia?
Well, I'm glad the World Cup's on at the moment.
Yeah.
So
everyone's pretending to care about football for a few weeks.
Well, I'm glad you called it football.
Yeah. I'll show you that respect.
Yeah, thank you. I do let people know that they're still attempting to speak English when they say the word soccer. Definitely the football. The times when stuff's on just doesn't work.
It doesn't match up at all. I'm a big European sport fan. I'm a huge tennis man. Yeah. And it's middle of the night.
Yeah.
And like hilarious before. So we're shooting this podcast about half an hour after the planned time because Mark, I'd sent him the Google Calendar link. And he's like, he messaged me, we're on for 7 p.m, right? And I'm like, nah, 6, mate. And he's like, I've got 7 a.m. in my Google Calendar, and he's still running on the UK time.
I just saw 7 to 8.
I love it. I love how he's still running on the UK time. Do you miss the music scene in the UK? We've got a pretty good music scene over here.
It's good. It is good. The main thing is, though, is that I note as a difference is you get that one bit. So you saw the Wombats the other day.
Oh, phenomenal.
Yeah. Awesome. But what would happen is you go to a little festival and it would be 10 different bands. Or they would have, a couple of different support acts. So, when I went to go see the Foo Fighters back in the day in the UK, 7 different bands came on. Queens of Stone Age, Motorhead, it was awesome.
It's huge.
Yeah, it was. So you find that it's that one band only, and little support act.
Yeah. Whereas here, you've actually got to go to a music festival if you want to see more than one act.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you look at some of the lineups at Glastonbury and Tea in the Park and V Festival, which was running back in the day, and it's the top 12 people there are all headliners.
Oh, it's enormous.
It's crazy.
Yeah. What are some of the best live acts you've seen over in the UK?
Oh, I'd say Monkeys for sure.
Yeah, we had a good talk about that the other day.
So good. Everything from just their stage presence to lighting and obviously the music itself. Everything was just like like little euphoria going on.
They just tick all the boxes. That was the same with the Wombats the other night for me. I was at a music festival back in Ballarat, which is where I spent 5 years of my life before I came to Mornington, and was with a lot of my best friends that I don't get to see much anymore, and with a lot of other people that hadn't seen in a long time, and it was golden hour, and the Wombats are singing Let's Dance to Joy Division, and that part at the end where they say we're so happy, they just repeated that over and over for about 2 or 3 minutes, and it was just absolute ecstasy, mate. It was phenomenal. But then I'd love to see one of those bands like the Wombats or Arctic Monkeys, not that I have seen them. I'd love to see them over in their homeland in the UK. Is there a British band that you've seen both in the UK and Australia, and do they put on a better show in their homeland, or it's...
I saw Bastille out in the UK, and then I saw them out here as well, and I saw them at the Corner in Richmond, and it was really cool there because it was only 500 people. It was real intimate.
I love the intimate vibe, yeah.
Through into the crowd, and everyone was patting him on the back, and it was really cool there. It was when I saw him in the UK, it was I mean, it wasn't a crazy huge gig. It was about 30,000 people, but it's
big enough.
It's still big.
Yeah.
It's, a lot bigger than 500 people. But so yeah, completely different how it went about from massive artistic show to a more intimate style, and they both had their merits. Absolutely, it was cool seeing the differences.
You saw the Foo Fighters the other night? Not the Foo Fighters. Sorry, Guns N' Roses.
Guns N' Roses. Yeah,
you're just talking about the Foo Fighters.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. We were talking.
Geelong show though.
Sorry.
I saw the Fooies in the last Geelong show.
Yeah, you got pissed on too.
Yeah.
Rained a lot.
Oh yeah, forgot my jacket. That was terrible.
Tell us about Guns N' Roses, because we were talking about this off camera. You said it started a bit flat.
It was good. I said it wasn't quite flat. Like, it was just the fact that first few bits, it was still light. The atmosphere wasn't quite there. People were still shuffling in, and played a bit of their kind of more modern, newer stuff, which definitely people weren't there for. And it started off with "Welcome to the Jungle." And then there was like phones out everywhere. Everyone flashes, recordings and so on like that. And then when it started playing the next sort of few songs after that, you could tell it dwindle down the atmosphere a bit. And you initially kind of wondered if he still had the voice, but then, he started getting into the old stuff and he pulled out all the stops.
That's it. You've always got to start with the banger. And you sort of feel for artists or bands that have produced a lot of new stuff and they want to show that off and play that, but they know, and everyone knows that a lot of people there are probably there to see old stuff, and it'd probably be a tough situation to be in. And
definitely. I remember Linkin Park back in the day they wouldn't play a lot of their old songs, so they sort of reimagined them and started playing them in different ways.
Yep.
So you knew all the lyrics, you knew the song,
that's
but
cool.
It was like a cool new way of experiencing.
And that's a great spin on it. Whereas what's that band? Foster the People that sing Pumped Up Kicks.
Yeah.
I don't know if they still do, but I know a few years ago they flat out stopped playing Pumped Up Kicks because it was just the one song everyone was there for.
Knew.
So they stopped playing it entirely. And I don't know whether they've put it back into their rotation or not, but they just cracked the shits, which I don't think is the right way to go about it.
I don't. I mean, people follow you for a reason, so you can't just go, we're not going to give you what you want.
Yeah.
They're still turning up and paying money. You don't want people to go home disappointed.
Absolutely.
So I wouldn't be surprised if, don't get me wrong, for some people, they're still a great band, but would 20% of the people turn up if they knew that song wasn't going to get played?
Have you ever been to see a live act that you were so keen to see this one song and they just didn't play it?
Only through sheer hope of that they were going to play it.
You knew they probably weren't going to play it, but
it definitely wasn't.
I've definitely had that.
Yeah, but only through sheer hope of that. It wasn't one of their main songs by any means, but
I don't know if you've listened to the Inspired Unemployed podcast, but the boys, they went to see Bon Iver. Yeah. And they wanted to hear him play Skinny Love, which is the song he's most known for. Didn't play it.
You're kidding me.
That's stiff.
That's refund material.
That's refund material. That's on the same. That's worse than Pumped Up Kicks.
Yeah, definitely.
Lovely. Any notes you're getting from this Chardonnay, by the way?
I mean, quite high acid.
High acid?
Yeah. Yep. So you got your cheeks salivating a bit.
What does
so your cheeks like saliva going through. So you've had a sour lolly before and so on. That's the acid coming through a bit.
Yeah, right.
If you had quite acidic wines, that's what happens, especially with the white wines. So that's what tends to happen.
So would sour be a good way to describe this, or you go for more fruity and acidic and?
Yeah, it's quite a fruity Chardonnay. It's definitely a modern style. There's not a lot of oak there. It's more like citrus, sort of grapefruit pith coming through. Big on the citrus.
Tell us about your training to develop that palate, and did it come naturally, and how did you develop that?
And I've always been awful at that.
Did you have awful? Do you have someone telling you you're right or you're wrong, or do you just?
To a certain extent, yeah. You have different grape varieties that are meant to have certain, flavour profiles and so on. And whether this one's meant to be lychee or this one's meant to be gooseberry and whatever, you kind of taught that. But obviously everyone's palate's different, and I've always been terrible at I know what's good, I know what's not good, and but I've trying to figure out specific. That's taken a long time. And what's really interesting is there was in the UK there was a group of sommeliers are professional wine connoisseurs essentially, and we just call them SOMs because you can't be asked to pronounce the whole thing. So there was a whole group of somms and master somms who were put into a wine tasting, complete blind wine tasting. And what someone had done is they had actually put food colouring in a white wine, and they all guessed a red. And it's crazy how much different senses influence that.
Like, placebo is huge.
Huge.
Like, and people like shit on placebo, but like placebo is so, and we can't quite explain it with science, but it's that big that every scientific study has to control for placebo. Like, it's that big, and we just can't quite.
I never used to believe in it until, I must have been 20 or so, 21, and I was working at a place where one of the guys, he used to get from the regulars who used to come in, he used to get on it so much that his friends that he was with were worried about him. So what they used to do on one of the days a week was they would order, not let him pay for anything, and they would order from him like non-alcoholic beers, all get it poured into a pint glass, and then he would drink that all night.
And did he get pissed?
He was hammered.
Jesus.
And I never, honestly, I never believed in it until I saw that, and I was like, this can't be right. Like, seriously.
It's fascinating because people want to shit on placebo, like whether it's a product or a drink or a supplement or whatever, and they say, oh, well, it's placebo, it doesn't work, or it's an exercise. But like, for me, as long as there's no ill intent of pulling the wool over people's eyes to make money, if placebo is making you better and move better, perform better and happier, then fucking so be it, I reckon.
Channel 4 in the UK, they did this massive...
Hello, Lachlan.
Hello. Mr. Wallace. They did this massive drug study, and it was, they took all, they got the police to hand them over all the drugs from Glastonbury Festival. Oh, Banksy.
Hello.
Hello, mate. Got everything confiscated. They tested everything, but they also got like, it was 16 different people to actually test pure ecstasy. And they gave 8 of them a placebo and 8 of them the real drug. All 16 of them pretty much described their feelings and like euphoric status all in the same way.
Wow.
And it was done live on Channel 4 across 4 different episodes, and it was nuts, like, to actually see how different. And they also showed, their brainwaves, how,
and like were their pupils dilated and
everything. It was all similar for all 16 of them, because all 16 of them believe that they've been given the actual drug.
Yep.
So no, I'm definitely, after seeing a couple of those things, is definitely didn't believe it before, but now
I already well and truly bought into it. But now after hearing that, like, that's fascinating. Probably bought a few placebos over the years, Mark. Righto. Let's knock that one back. We're down to our final wine. Eyes closed, please, Mark. So it's another white. You're 1 from 2.
Yeah, 50%.
Yeah.
Not great.
Rightio. We're ready to roll. Cheers to you.
Cheers. Bet you this thing isn't even recording. That's definitely...
Don't do that to me. Mate, every single podcast I record, I get halfway through, my heart skips a beat, like, fuck, is this thing on? But we are on.
Just an excuse to drink wine. I reckon I'm going to blame you for the last one. I reckon you threw me when you said it was fruity and sweet.
That's that placebo again, mate.
Yeah. Got in my head, psychological aspect. But yeah, that's Savvy B.
That is correct. This is most definitely Savvy B. And what makes you say that?
So pungent on the nose.
Pungent?
Yeah. For some people, a good way. For some people, not.
I got to say,
breathing just like gently, just like normally. If you do that, it actually like go
okay.
blocks your nostrils.
Yeah. Okay. So. Yep. Okay. And what are you smelling there? Because I got to say, I'm not smelling much, but again, this is my uncultured nose and.
Real like tropical flavors. So you think about stuff like almost like mango, pineapple.
But again, like that, this is my obnoxiousness. That's fruity, isn't it? That's just fruit.
Yeah, it's fruity.
Yeah.
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 But that's the difference between fruity and sweet.
So this is a more sweet wine, you're saying?
Still dry wine. There's not a lot of sugar in there. What
are some of the sweeter wines?
So there's something called like late harvest wines, where they let them ripen more, and you get loads of different ones that are called like noble rot and things like that. They've gotten away from
Noble
the word.
rot, is that just because it's ripened to the point where it's almost like
It is
rotting?
rotting.
Yeah.
It is. And it's a horrible name, so they just call it noble wines now.
Yeah, you wouldn't be selling too many noble rots, surely.
No, and they've gotten away from that for marketing purposes.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's quite a lot of them. They now call a lot of them late harvest, which you basically let it go and go and go and go, and you get not a lot of juice from it, but the juice that comes out is super viscous, super sweet, like real high sugar content. So the more you let it go, the higher and higher the sugar content goes. So you get even places where they do, it's called ice wine or ice wine in different places like Austria, Germany, and Canada, and some different places where they actually have it where they essentially do a similar technique, but it's under extreme temperatures, and you get minuscule amounts per grape, like of juice.
Yeah, right. And I suppose they'd be really expensive too, then, wouldn't they?
Yeah. But they're very concentrated in flavour.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's they're pretty delicious, to be honest. Like, it's not like you can have a whole glass of them, but
like,
great with desserts, great with cheese.
So they're not smashable, as you'd say.
Definitely not smashable.
Yeah. So are there non-alcoholic wines? Like, what does the addition of alcohol to the wine do to the flavour and like?
A couple of things. I mean, the most difficult thing is you can make non-alcoholic wines. There's a couple of different. I mean, there's multiple different companies now, but the companies who do it well, what they've done, and not even just the wines, like the spirits. There's a few really good companies where they actually employ those like master sommeliers who are incredible. They can just, they're like a bloodhound. They can detect everything, and they will taste and smell certain different wines, and they will know the breakdown, and they will essentially get non-alcoholic versions of that, blend it together until they're happy with essentially a recipe that they've made. So non-alcoholic wines, quite a lot of it's made obviously from veggies instead, other fruits and vegetables.
Yeah, such as?
Sometimes, I mean, everything, like literally everything, parsnips, apples, beetroot.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Like, lots of different fruits and veggies, put some spices in there as well, Some might have like fennel seeds go through it, and it's crazy.
Is there an argument that that's not even wine?
Technically, it isn't. Yeah. Technically, it isn't, because it's not gone through a fermentation process and all this kind of stuff.
Is that a belief you hold? Like, that's not wine. That's just,
to be honest,
that's just juice.
Yeah, sell it how you sell it. It's technically. I mean, what they've done is they've made a non-alcoholic product into a wine style. That's what they're doing, which makes sense. So it goes the same with the spirits. There's loads of non-alcoholic gins. But having the alcohol, so you can go both ways. You can actually technically make a gin, and you can actually use it's called a centrifuge to take all the alcohol out of it, and the ethanol out of it. But what that does is it strips so going back to that kind of water to milk kind of like kind of mouthfeel.
Continuum,
it will make it thinner. So it's you lose some of that effect from it. And it does take away from some of the flavours. So people are getting quite creative. Well, how do we still make it a gin? How do we still make it this and that and so on? And it's normally quite easy, or not easy, but it's easier for the dark spirits because, it's a lot sugar-based, rum sugar-based, and there's lots of sugar in, say, bourbon, corn-based and so on. So you can substitute a lot of that with sugar and non-alcoholic flavours.
I like the way you said you can market it however you want. It's like the impossible, like the fake meat. Like, that's not meat, but they market it as meat. Hey, like, you market it as whatever you want.
You can do, yeah. I do find it very odd. That's that's probably one of the ones that I do put my foot down on. Just say I find it odd,
mate. Don't get me started. I could do a whole podcast on that, but we might.
I just don't understand. The idea is to. I understand completely different people's beliefs and so on. If you don't want to eat animals for the fact of harming animals and so on, completely up to you. Genuinely, completely up to you. But then why would you eat a version of something that is still imitating that?
Why are you craving that? It's like your body trying to tell you something there.
Yeah. But, I understand it's quite funny. Like, I know a couple of vegans who wear leather jackets.
Yeah.
They won't eat meat, but they wear leather jackets. But I don't care. Like, each their own. You're not harming anyone. Go nuts.
Yeah.
But that's one market that I find fascinating. Like they do incredibly well.
I suppose especially in your industry too. Like you'd cop a lot with, people's beliefs.
Yeah.
And requirements. Hey.
Well, it's crazy. Over the last 10 years, it's been incredibly interesting that it used to be allergies. It used to be you come to my restaurant, you tell me, hey, I can't eat this because I'm going to die. Is there a way that you can make me not die? We're like, sure,
of course,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Or we'll tell you, no, we can't. But now people are on, hey, I'm on this kind of diet.
Yeah,
or, hey,
keto,
I'm not eating this at the moment.
Yeah.
Can I, even weird ones, like one of the favourites is, can I get a prawn pizza without the prawns?
So
yeah, it's
and I suppose like back a decade ago, you could just tell them that you're not going to actually say get fucked, but you can just say no. But like, whereas today in the age of social media and Google reviews, where they're also very important to the success of your business, like you almost like got to just bend over backwards for some people.
Quite a few places that are now started putting their foot down, saying they're not going to cater for any dietaries, and what they mean by that is they'll still cater for allergies.
Yeah,
they won't
like they'll have
dietaries.
gluten-free options and
absolutely,
whatever,
and they'll
like
still cater for a
yeah.
celiac, and they'll look after those people, but they won't go like, "Hey, I'm not into this today. Can you alter this for me?
You pick the tomatoes off,
or how about you just order something different?"
Yeah,
but I call it the handbrake. You have someone who has a certain preference and so on. They're most likely to go pick the venue, because the people who don't have preferences will
they can go wherever. Yeah.
So you get the person with the preference, and don't get me wrong, absolutely cater for allergies. You have to in this day and age. And, it's not just a business thing; it's a moral thing.
It's borderline a form of discrimination.
It is. Yeah, absolutely. No, you should absolutely be able to cater for people, but then you do get the borderline ridiculous with the I can't eat this today, or I can't eat this shade of whatever. And I call it the handbrake. If you do not cater for that person, then them and their 4 other friends aren't coming.
They're out. Yeah.
So if you don't do that, you haven't just lost that one person. You've lost potentially, a couple, a group, whatever it may be.
And any of their referrals, if they have a great time at your restaurant or whatever, and then they tell their mate. But I guess you're right.
The biggest I ever had was I did a full function back in the UK, and it was 150 people, and we have 53 dietaries, which is
that's a third of the.
Yeah, it is.
Jesus.
And reading up on the study at the time, that was a little while ago. Only at that time, 4 to 6% of people across the planet had allergies, but it was up to 30% believed that they had an allergy. So this is probably a bit of an outdated study now. It was 10 years ago, but it was interesting to see those kind of facts, and then you actually seeing that in real life. Yeah,
and swinging back to placebo, there's also nocebo, which is placebo. You have the sugar pill, but someone tells you it's going to give you superpowers, and you get superpowers.
Yeah.
The opposite, nocebo, the sugar pill, someone tells you it's going to kill you, and then you start actually feeling sick and like you're going to die. They did a study, and I can't give you a PMID or a year or anything, but on people with celiac disease, they gave half of them, actual gluten, and they gave another half of them these muffins that they told them they had gluten, but they didn't actually, and I think all of them had a reaction to it.
Yeah, right.
So the opposite is true on that placebo thing.
Yeah.
UK hospo, you were just talking about before, comparison to Oz hospo, we chatted about there's no RSA. Are there any other glaring differences in the scenes?
RSA was different. The one of the places I ran, we used to have MMA fighters as a security team.
You'd feel safe. You'd feel incredibly safe there.
It was just lots more fights.
Maybe if you had a lot more fights.
A lot more fights.
Wow, I'd imagine the opposite.
Oh no, I came out here and I started, I was out here travelling around, and what do you mean you can't get obliterated? And everyone's getting cut off and so on.
Okay, so you didn't have actual MMA fighters.
No, my security team in the UK was.
Fuck, right. And that's just, so there's more fights in the UK.
Oh, crazy amount more. When I've then started working in hospo, I was like, guys, there's no fights.
Yeah.
I feel safe.
Do you know of a reason why there's more fights over there?
People would just get absolutely hammered.
And you reckon that's associated with the no RSA thing?
Yeah, 100%.
Yep.
So
wow.
think about it this way. I mean, probably, you one or two people who have been completely obliterated before, and someone's accidentally bumped into them. Versus if you were on the level, but you're all right. You're like, sorry, mate.
Yeah.
Vastly different reactions.
Yeah, of course. And like, I've got like my two best mates are over in the UK at the moment, and like it's fascinating. You. Like you can go and what was that?
They left you.
Yeah, all alone. They you can go to a park and just drink and walk down the street with a can, and it's no worries.
Yeah, literally, I went back in July. My first night out was just a night out with my younger brother, and it literally ended up as that. It literally ended up as drinks in the park first. Someone trying to punch on later.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, I'm back in London.
I'm home. Home sweet home.
Yeah. Other differences.
Yeah.
Not a crazy amount, to be honest. A few different things, like you got the hat system over here to rate restaurants, where it's kind of rosettes or Michelin stars in the UK.
What's the hat system? Because that's new to me.
So different people get rated, whether it's 1, 2, 3 hat restaurants.
Okay.
So Peninsula, the awards just came out this year.
How'd Montalto go?
Very good. We always strive to be a one hat restaurant in the restaurant part, and then we retain that this year, which is good.
Cool.
And the Peninsula did really well this year. Really, really well.
Is there a reason why it's such, like, geographically or climate or whatever, that it's such a wine region down this way?
It will be from literally the climate. You know, there's a place in France called Burgundy, and they grow Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. They've been doing it for donkey's years. And it works really well over there. And obviously Australia isn't that old a country. But what they did is they looked at the different climates of what works well for wine around the world, and the Ulster, France, Italy, Spain, and so on. And they looked at over here all these different geographical spots, and they were like, let's plant this, let's plant this. It works well in that climate. But what Australia's done incredibly well is, one, they've got every climate of the planet in one country. But two, they've got some climates that other places don't have.
Yeah.
So Shiraz is over in... I better finish this.
Oh.
It's my jam coming out. They got some really big desert weather. You think Barossa, McLaren Vale and so on.
Like just hot and dry.
Yeah, really arid kind of weather. And there's a few wine producing countries that have that, but probably not as harsh a climates as where we are. And so you think about the Shirazes over here, they're literally so full on and punchy and bold. They're going into 16% wine territory, which is huge for a wine. And
so what does that, like 16% alcohol?
Yeah.
Is that not just a decision by whoever's making the wine, or?
No, it depends on, if you look at the back of that one, that's probably 13 and a half. Right,
so this Montalto Pinot, it's a... Oh, that's your one, mate. Where does it say? I can't find it.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep, 13
and a half.
And so then that's not a decision by the winemaker?
You technically can make it bolder and so on. You can punch it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But from then putting more alcohol, then...
You're sacrificing...
Yeah, different elements, flavours and so on. Mouthfeels and so on. But the Peninsula, it works with predominantly the same grapes as Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. Obviously, other stuff's grown here, and it's great to find new different things. There's Quealy Winery who put Pinot Gris or Grigio on the map down this end, and they do a beautiful version of that, and they were pretty much the starting of that element down here. But they were showing that you can produce other things down here as well, which was good. And it's great to see other people producing lots of different styles. Not always they're going to be the best sellers or they're going to be the most profitable, but it's nice to have variety.
What are some other wineries on the Peninsula that are doing really, really good things that you want to give a shout out to?
Definitely, Yabby Lake.
Yabby, okay, that's one I've actually never heard of.
Yeah, only round the corner. So,
Wow.
Take you about 15 minutes from here to get to them. But
Yep.
Yabby Lake, really, really good. Their single vineyard Pinot, like their top of the range Pinot, just phenomenal. Paringa, literally do not make a bad wine.
Major sponsor of the Red Hill Football Club. Shout out.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
I was paid to say that.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking. Don't make a bad wine. Like they are about the quality, but it's also not, you got the top of range stuff. Even their sort of drink now stuff, as I say, I don't like to say like entry level because it's not entry level, like Goon's entry level. No. They're kind of like drink now stuff, like the stuff that you don't age, you just want to have now.
Yep.
Amazing. Doesn't break the bank. Genuinely really good.
And that's just their niche, and they're just really, really good at the drink now stuff.
They're really good at the top quality stuff as well.
Yep.
Like that's definitely their niche up there. But what they do with they still don't compromise on quality with the drink now stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
And then 10 Minutes is probably the other one that I would shout out to.
10 Minutes.
Yeah. 10 Minutes
that's another one I've never heard of. There you go.
So 10 Minutes by Tractor, they're really, really good. Great restaurants in Paringa and 10 Minutes. They did great. They both got 2 hats this year. So
nice.
Some phenomenal food.
Very nice. What's one got to do to get a hat?
Be good.
Like,
it's not just
who
about
is the
food.
judge of who gets hats and like who?
There's multiple different people.
Who's
and
the
then-
governing body of hats?
So there's multiple different people who go around, and there's different food writers and so on who all go around to different places, and it's a continuous job. And they have a review season, and they go during those periods and literally go to different restaurants, and you have one outing with them. So quite a few of them are known now, but some of them are still unknown, or they've come on a day where you haven't caught them, or whatever it may be.
So they can just rock up.
Yeah. So
Yeah, wow.
always have booking. Normally come as a couple, like there's 2 of them that turn up, like whether it's one and a friend or whatever it may be. But they essentially review everything from, the aesthetics of the place, the staffing levels.
Yeah, I suppose like the wait staff and everything.
Yeah,
Like,
how
wow.
the service has gone,
Yeah.
the cutleries, the cleanliness of the building, to absolutely every aspect of their outing. So it's not just food and wine that they turn up and look at.
Can you pick them out? Like, can you pick 2 people out and you say, yep, they're coming to test us
Sometimes,
out?
I mean,
yeah.
they don't sit there and ask questions.
Yeah,
So
they're incognito.
Yeah, definitely. But certain people they've been doing it a long time. So you know that they're
Just
on like the review.
The way they carry themselves and...
Well, not just that, like their faces from being on the
Okay,
review
yeah,
panel.
yeah,
And that's it. So certain people you go, oh, that's John.
yeah.
And
And is that on the same level as a Michelin star? Or is a Michelin star a bit more prestigious than getting a hat?
It's technically more prestigious. So Michelin star is from back in the day, the Michelin tires.
Yeah.
And it was
So it's the same company.
Yeah, really
Stop it.
great marketing. What they did is they started a guide of good restaurants to go to try and make people drive more, which wears down your tyres, which makes you want new tyres, which is incredible. Great
That is
marketing.
mind-blowing.
I know. How clever are those people? So it started off like that, but then it became we want a Michelin star. We want people to drive to us.
Yeah.
So it just got better and better and better over the years, and it's incredible the standards now. It used to be about for a little period about how fancy everything was, because they rate you on literally absolutely everything, like literally everything from what glassware you have to what cutlery you have to everything.
Wow.
But it's interesting now over the last few years to see who else has got Michelin stars, and they're scaling it back a little bit more to not be, well, it's only the most expensive restaurants who can
So
get
it's easier to get a Michelin star these days
I wouldn't
than...
say it's easier.
Okay.
I would say it's slightly different parameters.
Yep.
So there's a few food trucks who's even got,
That's crazy.
yeah, it's crazy.
Yep.
And there was this, I think she was in her 70s or 80s, this Vietnamese lady who got a Michelin star, and she's literally just been cooking the same stuff for donkey's years from house family recipes for years and years and years. And it's incredible to see the fact that she's been given that and grafted that and received that from all of her hard work for all the years, but for something that she does literally out of pretty much this tiny, this tiny outfit.
That's
and
madness.
it's literally takeaway food. Like but it's amazing how different. It's kind of the parameters have changed rather than being who's the fanciest, which it did get that way for a while. To now what's good.
It must be.
What do people like?
It must be hectic takeaway food. Imagine getting that after a night out. And
Hey,
on that, why does everyone in the UK get a curry after a night out?
We don't. We get a kebab.
Yeah?
We get a curry during the night out.
During the night out. What's that all about?
Why wouldn't you? You have no idea how happy I was when I went to the UK and got a curry. Like, they literally had everything on the set menu that I loved.
Yep.
Big bottle of 660ml Cobra Indian beer to go with it. And they just knew my language straight away. But the curries out here is so different. Like, your butter chicken is more... is a lot more similar to a chicken tikka masala in the UK. Like your chicken tikka,
Is that like mild or?
Well, your chicken tikka over here, there's no capsicum in a chicken tikka. Like literally, it was invented in Scotland. It was by we have a big Indian and Pakistani population in the UK, and the curry is mind blowing. You've got a huge repertoire of cultures in the UK, and that's evident of our food. And thank God, because otherwise it would be so bland.
So you're saying like the curries are not as spicy here, or they're like weaker, or
it's just different, really different. So there's so chicken tikka masala, for instance, was invented in Scotland. It was literally a guy who had chicken tikka pieces come out, and he asked for, have you got like a tomato onion sauce you can put with this? Guy knocked something up. Next week, more people, like, and then it became like literally a dish all over the UK that's absolutely treasured.
It's nuts. So you said it originated in Scotland, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nuts because like I think myself and I reckon most people with me they'd think it originated in India, and it's like it's a very typical Indian cuisine.
I mean, it was an Indian family who came up with it, an Indian man.
Yep.
But he was in Scotland, and that's where it all came from. And
that's nuts. You've dropped some bombs on this episode, and I reckon that might be the biggest of them all. Actually, the Michelin tire one was pretty fucked.
Yeah.
Hey, what's next in the life of Mark Coffer, in the life of Montalto and you, and where does the next 10 years take you?
10 years is a long time.
Well, actually, yeah, that is a long time. Shit.
That's a very long
I don't know
time.
where the next 12 months takes me. What do you hope the future holds for you?
The last little bit. Well, get through summer for one.
Yes. Shit.
Yeah.
Going to be a hectic summer.
It'll be a hectic summer. It'll be a good summer. Like, I'm looking forward to it. We're got some really good people there. Like really, really good people. But it's also going to be nice the fact that we're not like last summer. What took away from it all was, yes, we had to deal with all the parameters of COVID and so on. But you turn up, you got you for your function and so on. I've got to check in everyone one by one and so on.
Shit.
But we're starting off everything this time. Everything's on positive.
Yeah, and it's like actually wasn't that long ago, hey, that we were scanning the QR code and checking in and wearing masks, but once you sat down, you can take it off. And
it was like Uncle Brian or Auntie Mary doesn't have a smartphone. And you've got to go through all them. Like, why can't they come into our wedding? And it was hectic.
And like COVID vaccination certificates.
Yeah. To the point where people were actually going like, oh, they've forgotten their phone and someone's on Photoshop. Like, it was ridiculous.
And like, because I was one that I didn't have my certificate linked with my check-in app, so I would always take a couple of minutes when I'm booking into places, and I'm thinking, fuck, like, they must hate me, and they're probably getting 50 people just like me every single day. Yeah.
We did.
It
was the people who got super aggressive about it as well.
I really respect your industry and what you do, Mark, because I worked at KFC Hamilton for a few years, and that was a fucking nightmare, mate.
I bet.
I really, hey?
How do you go at cooking chicken now?
Not good. Not good. No.
No tips and tricks you picked up?
I got nothing. I don't know the 11 secret herbs and spices, so I didn't pick up a whole lot from that job.
Other than know it was 11 though.
Other than a little bit of pocket money to piss up.
Yeah.
Anything else for the viewers? Anything? What do you want the viewers community to learn, to know? Anything you want to pass on?
I reckon they can teach me a lot more than
that. Yeah. Anything you want to pass on to the listeners before we wrap up?
I would say have a good Christmas. Just enjoy yourselves.
Yeah, what are you doing for your Christmas?
We do a little orphanage every year because I'm out from the UK. Family isn't out here. So we've got a few of us. My best mate moved out here about 5 years ago. So we always do a little, what we call an orphanage Christmas dinner.
Yep.
That always works out pretty well.
That's epic, mate. Where's that at?
It's in Williams Landing, which is plus Point Cook.
Nice.
So we're doing that this year. It's his turn to host.
Beautiful, mate. Enjoy your orphanage Christmas, mate.
And yourself?
Back home to Hamilton.
Yep.
See the fan. It's
not to KFC.
Not to KFC. Won't be going anywhere near that joint. It'll be the second time I've been home to Hamilton since last Christmas.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't get down there that much. So I'll enjoy that time off very much. So yeah. Lovely, mate. Thanks so much for your time.
Cheers.
Absolute pleasure. Let's finish this Montalto Pinot.
Mm-hmm. Oh, smashing it.
And I'll see you tomorrow at Montalto for our staff Christmas party. I'll be able to.
Looking forward to it.
I'll be able to tell them all about all the stuff I've learned. I'll be able to give them an education.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I'm going to tell them they can't do the wine tasting. You're going to run it.
Yeah, I'll run the wine tasting.
Yeah.
Beautiful, mate. Thanks so much.